for no reason at all. All right, fade into black. Make sure I'm on intro. There we go. Okay. We are going to start in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for November 8th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, 65.6 million people have PS5s, but only 64.1 million of them have good taste. Yes, this is about Astro Bot. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Lex Luddy, everybody. Lexi, how are you doing?
God, he fucked up the joke.
How'd I fuck it up? Did I get the numbers wrong?
No, think about it.
It
should be 64.1 million of them have bad taste.
Oh, yep, there it is. I didn't. Yes.
Yeah.
Only 1.5 million of them have good taste. There we go. I wrote it down wrong. That's how you fuck it up.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful.
Grubb,
it's my first time.
If you're wondering how I'm doing, one, I watched you type that into the document and said nothing. And two,
that's fair. Yes.
Yeah. And two, I'm watching Andor again.
Oh yeah. I don't blame you. That's how I definitely have considered it. I was going to restart it myself, but I don't know. Now I'm mostly just laying down a lot. That's how I'm dealing with stuff. It's working out great so far. Really enjoying that.
Yeah, it's been a week, you know?
Yep.
It's been a week at the end of a year, at the end of 4 years, at the end of a decade, and that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, at the end of just 42 years, and just kind of think it'll change, but doesn't really ever change. Just kind of keeps getting weirder and worse in a lot of ways, and it's like one interesting global event after another, and then and then suddenly it's just like that's been the whole life. That's just been the entire life that I've been alive. It's been like this now. I'm starting to think this is the normal state of things.
Not to be too depressing, but something that I noticed was like as a kid, and you might think of it this way too. As a kid, things are always getting better because you're getting older and you're like getting more responsibilities, and you're like things are getting better, you know. And then you hit adulthood, and then it's not that good things never happen. Like, good things happen, but by and large, things tend to just get worse.
Yeah, you know,
that just tends to be how it goes.
Just bends towards, just shit. That's what it's been bending towards, my life at least. I
like that you had Jason on to like be like good and optimistic, and now I'm on and I'm like, let's all be super fucking depressed.
Yeah, you know what though? I'm happy you're here. Happy to hang out with y'all, talk about video games. We'll get through it. It'll be fine. It might not be, but who knows? What else can you do other than believe it could be fine and try to make that world?
We raised money for the kids. That was a good thing.
Raise money for the kids over at Remap Radio. They're raising money for Palestine right now. Everyone should go check that out. They're going to be going all weekend. They've raised a ton of money. They're doing great work.
They were playing Neo Turf Masters yesterday.
They started out with Neo Turf Masters. Yeah, big tournament golf, as they called it. What was the reason? I guess that's what it was called in Japan. Big tournament golf. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that in America it was called Neo Turf Masters, and in Japan it's called Big Tournament Golf, because like the Neo Geo was not a major thing here. It was definitely bigger in Japan, but I don't know, whatever. That's a good game. I have that on the Switch as well. I recommend going out, and you just want a good golf game. We should do Golf Week at Giant Bomb, by the way, but if you want just a good golf game on the Switch, it's hard to do better than Neo Turf Masters.
You say we should do Golf Week, but then you have to play stuff like Outlaw Golf.
And listen, I'll do Outlaw Golf, Kirby's Dream Course. We'll do the Walkabout Golf. Is that one of the ones that everyone likes? There's some VR bullshit we'll do. There's a lot of fun stuff we could do. I also do want to play Web Fishing Jam. Should we just do Web Fishing for UPF today? For UPF? I don't know. We'll see. Jan, you don't have to worry about that. We'll figure that out. But I kind of want all right, let's go. I just discovered web fishing, so now I'm very excited about it.
I hear a lot of talk about it, but I still don't know what it is.
I think it's just kind of like you just fish and hang out, and that's it. I think that's all there is to it. So All right, cool. Web fishing today, everybody. That I'll get that downloaded now. I think it's free, so maybe we're gonna just hop. We could just take over a server or something like that. I don't know how it works. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with PS5 shipments, top 65.6 million. Yeah, there's for Dregs Day, there's quite a bit to talk about. Part of that, obviously, is Sony reported their earnings overnight. From Sal Romano at Gamatsu, PlayStation 5 has shipped, let me turn these on real quick. There we go. PlayStation 5 has shipped 65.6 million units worldwide, Sony announced in its financial results for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2024. A total of 3.8 million PlayStation 5 units were shipped during the 3 months that ended on that September 30th, which is actually down 1.1 million from the same period in the previous fiscal year. That's it's usually not great for, like, what year are we in of the PlayStation 5? So it launched in 2020. Year four. Year four, they should still be growing. Now, there are caveats. For one, it was a very front-loaded generation. A lot of people rushed out to get these things because of the pandemic and various other reasons, and just with a console that was in high demand. And yet still, like, they should be kind of growing. The other caveat, though, is people are well aware at this point in this quarter that the PS5 Pro was coming. And maybe some people who were going to get a console decided to wait. I don't know, because it's like maybe they decided to wait until they got more information, and then they got more information like that's $700. Now I'm not sure what to do, and they're in a weird holding pattern because they were going to wait for the PS5 Pro, and then they found out the price, and that maybe that kept them like held off entirely. I don't know, but how do you read these numbers?
I'd be super curious. I'll be super curious to see what the Black Friday prices for all of the consoles look like this year.
Yeah, I'm expecting like some noticeable discounts, right? I mean, there were definitely PlayStation 5 had a lot of discounts last Black Friday, or maybe it was like into the early part of this year. But
do you think they tried to do that VR bundle that did really well for them that one year, or have they just totally given up on that?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if they have VR units sitting on shelves, they'll definitely do that bundle again. But yeah, I think they'll probably do some pretty heavy discounts just to try to keep this thing moving along and keeping people joining the generation. But
I think their problem this year is they don't really have a pack-in game, because Helldivers is a $40 game, so packing that in doesn't seem like it's as good value if you're buying it, or if you're a consumer. You'd be happier just to buy it in your own time. And so, I think the drop in sales can really be put down to the just hasn't been that many big PlayStation exclusives this year. There was Rise of the Ronin, which kind of came and went.
Yep.
Helldivers took off, but it very much so. It didn't seem like it was moving PS5. Helldivers seems like it was selling really well to the people who already owned PS5s, and especially people who are on PC.
Yeah, it did very well on Steam, yeah.
And Astro Bot, as we'll get to, like, I don't think that was shipping consoles maybe in the way that other first party games might. Which you have it down in here that, like, 1.5 isn't great. I think
I have complicated thoughts about it. It's not great.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like there's a lot of reasons why a game like this wouldn't be a multi-million seller on a PlayStation 5 when you look at the history of PlayStation exclusives and what that market is conditioned to want, or is conditioned to spend their money on. And I think the thing that they probably like about Astro Bot is it's the first PlayStation game that I've seen in a while that has kind of unreserved positive feelings around it. Every other PlayStation game, whether people do buy it or don't buy it, there's definitely people who like have criticisms of them. Last of Us is too dark, or Death Stranding is too weird, or all these different things. Spider-Man 2 is kind of samey or something. And they review very well, but then there's this tale of the narrative changes a bit as those games go on. With Astro Bot, I don't think I've seen anyone get negative with it beyond them being like, hey, it would be nice if like these franchises came back, if you did something with them. which is probably in their eyes probably a better thing, that people are now more interested in their back catalog because it makes something like their subscription services look more valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mostly nailed it there with like, it's mostly about the games. If there were big games that kind of were forcing people out there to get super excited to buy a PlayStation 5, they would have sold more PlayStation 5s for sure. But I mean, they also have a relatively strong library at this point, but maybe not so strong that people feel like, well, if I haven't got a PS5 now, I got to rush out and get one. But they're, 65.6 million PlayStation 5s at this point. I do think that is probably puts them right on track of what the PS4 was at, if not ahead. And if it's not ahead, it's just slightly behind. It's basically in that range of what the PS4 was at this point in its life cycle. And that was, an unmitigated success. There was no, caveats there to its success. So if you're matching the PS4 with the PS5, you're doing pretty well. So it's like there's no reason to be like sounding alarm bells here, other than as it goes from its fourth to fifth year, it should be maybe doing a little bit better based on the traditional trajectory of these consoles. But again, it's a weird generation, front loaded. That is going to have an effect where it's like the kinds of people who would be getting a PS5 now actually already bought a PS5, and so they're actually ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. And so they are trying to focus on selling games to those people. The unfortunate part there is they just didn't have a lot of the kinds of games that those people were looking for.
Do you think they have anything in the pocket for the Game Awards? Any announcements that they are due on? Because it feels like they have a lot of... Everyone's kind of waiting for Insomniac to announce their next sort of batch of news, and there's Ghosts of Your Toy, which is out next year. But apart from that, all other Sony studios are pretty radio silent and have been for the last while, and it doesn't seem there hasn't been any hints of them breaking that before the end of this year.
Yeah, it's I think probably not. I think if they had more stuff beyond Ghost of Tsushima, they would have talked about it in the State of Play. And then if they're not talking about it there, they're probably saving it for whatever they do mid next year, because they've had several opportunities to say what these other studios have been working on, show that stuff off, and they've been holding back. And I think they've been holding back because they just want to wait until they're much closer and much more sure about the release for these games before they talk about it. And I think at the end of this year, they're like, nah, we're skating by right now on the strength of the console just as it is. And we have the PS5 Pro. We'll focus on that, tell people their games are going to look better. And then next year, as we're getting close to your toy, we'll have a bunch of stuff to talk about with that. And then we'll start making promises on new games much closer to the release of that game, so we can kind of build on that momentum. I think it's kind of, that's just where PlayStation's at with its studios right now, where its games are taking longer, so they're taking longer to talk about them.
Do you think that we find out what... I feel like every PlayStation studio, we kind of know roughly what they're working on. We know that Naughty Dog are working on a new IP. We know that Sony Santa Monica is also working on their new IP with Chloe Balrog, or Balrog. And Insomniac is kind of like, people know a lot of the details for them. Do you think Bluepoint are nearing getting near talking about what they've been working on? Because they are working on something that isn't a remake, they've said, right?
Wait, which studio was it?
Bluepoint.
Bluepoint. Oh yeah, Bluepoint's new IP as well. Like, it's that probably is one that will get mentioned here pretty soon. Because it feels like it's been plenty of time.
Demon's Souls was 2020.
Right, to at least get to a point where they can reveal that thing. Maybe it doesn't come out in 2025, but they could talk about it in 2025. Listen, we know that they have lots of studios working on stuff that will fill out the back half of the PlayStation 5's life. But when they start talking about these things, clearly they have gone years of not making big promises on these studios' behalf. And so I think they're going to continue that trend. And if that means there's 1.5 big games in any given year, and they have to kind of continue being mostly silent and wait until they have the assets ready to show off, then they're going to keep doing that. And I don't think they'll rush things. I don't think they'll try to force something into the Keeleys to make their consumers feel better. I think they're happy with the position they have in the market, even if it means there's a lot of people looking around going, what's next? What's next? We know there's stuff next. There just is a lot coming.
So that is actually something I do want to talk about, because it comes up with the Concord story that is coming up, and we can probably just skip down to it for now. But like, I think the Concord marketing was fucking terrible, and a lot of that was down to they only showed it at their state of play, and they showed it at one of their presentations. Those were the only two places that game showed up, and people just didn't know it existed. Like, I think unless it's a pre-existing franchise, Sony has been very bad about getting people to be aware of their like new IPs. Helldivers kind of got lucky or won the lottery because it became a TikTok trend. And you can't bet on every other new IP becoming a TikTok trend. And it doesn't seem like they have invested in building up the same sort of marketing machines that Xbox or that third parties have around their new games. Like, you look at games like Dragon Age and how many early codes were shipped out to influencers, or how many codes were shipped out to influencers so that they could be playing on day one. And like, that doesn't happen with Concord. No one was playing it on Twitch day one. So like, that seems very much like a failing of getting it in the hands of people that will promote it. Yeah.
I mean,
and I worry about that for like their future games, you know?
Yeah, right. We there's probably still a handful of these live service games in there that they will have to figure out how to communicate to their audience. But I think, let's get to it. Astro Bot sales top 1.5 million. This is from Sal Romano at Gamatsu. That's really good for a 3D platformer. It is. It did sell faster than Ratchet and Clank. That was earlier in the generation. There were fewer PS5s, but I just think that's not really what we're talking about here. It's not like this genre on the PlayStation is going to grow commensurate with the sales of the console. There's an audience for these games. They existed on the PS5 from day one, and that's about the same size audience as there is there for Astro Bot now. So 1.5 million, one of the better faster selling 3D platformers that doesn't have Mario in the name. We already heard that from Matt Piscatella, at least in the United States. Seems to be the case worldwide. And yet, I personally just can't help but be disappointed about this, because to me, this is what a game should be. It's doing everything right. It's a Game of the Year candidate for me. And so, okay, yeah, I mean, what more do you guys want? And it's like, it turns out like, a game that's just a fun video game is not enough for a lot of people that are spending a lot of money on their PS5s. They want something that feels important and feels like it's prestigious. Excuse me, and Astro Bot's not that. Specifically, it avoids being that. It just wants to be a fun video game.
Do you think it's that it doesn't feel prestigious, or that people weren't aware of it enough? Do you think that it didn't get the same push that something like The Last of Us Part 2 did or something?
I mean, that could be part of it, but no, I really think it is people who are like into console gaming at this moment, when like, especially on the PlayStation side of things, Xbox side to some degree, when they spend their money on something, I think they want to spend their money on something that feels like it is big, and it means something beyond just having fun with a video game. I think I do look down on that a little bit, but whatever, everyone's entitled to their own taste and their own idea of what games should be. And I was just hoping that, there aren't a lot of those games at this moment. So, hey, why don't you take some of that budget you would have spent on the Sad Dad games and show up for this game that is just clearly a great time. And it's a lot of people couldn't be bothered. Whatever, 1.5 million is still very good.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because the final bullet point that you have from this story is that 37% of the buyers that bought Astro Bot hadn't bought another first-party Sony game in the past 2 years.
Yes.
So it very clearly is selling to a different market, like a smaller
group of people.
Yeah, a smaller group of people, but it is selling to people who aren't buying The Last of Us Part 1 remastered, or that aren't buying Returnal, that aren't buying things like that. So I wonder if they look at that number of the 37% and go, oh, there is a market here that we can slowly build on, or if they look at 1.5 and they're like, this is a disappointment.
My hunch here would be they understood, the market pretty well, and that they're feeling good about this. I bet this is in line with how much money they spent on it, and I think they're happy about the buzz, and they could probably see that it's going to have relatively long legs. And I do think that the reason that they call out this 37% of people that bought the game being people that haven't bought a first-party PlayStation game in the last 2 years is them saying, yes, this is a new group that we can grow and build on. And it's also them saying it's like, oh, this is a group of people that we have not cultivated in the same way we've cultivated other genres. And so this is a wake-up moment for us. I think that's what's happening here. And so, just, to put it in black and white, Astro Bot has been a success. It relative to the amount of money they put into it, almost certainly it did very well. I just, this game's on a Switch. If this is a Nintendo game, this game races to 5-10 million copies in the same amount of time. At least 5 million. It really does. So it's like, okay, that audience just is somewhere else. I just am at a point where I'm like, I want all audiences to realize, hey, a great game like this, you should just go get it, play it. There's no reason not to.
It'll be interesting to see how that Horizon Lego game sells. Because that is in multiple places. It's not just on PS5.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I think that we probably get quite a bit more Astro. We get a lot more from Team Asobi. They seem like they're in a well-protected, safe position, and if Knack could get a Knack 2, right, when it wasn't doing anywhere close to this, I think Team Asobi is going to be able to extrapolate on their ideas that they put in here for quite some time, and that's maybe what all I need. But yeah, I just kind of wish the rest of gaming would wake up and recognize a great game when it's right in front of them. All right, let's see here. Let's stick with Sony for a little bit. Sony president reflects on why Concord failed. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Sony president, COO, and CFO Hiroki Totoki has shared his views on why Concord was a failure. During a Q&A session following its latest financial earnings call, Sony management was asked numerous questions about the live service game, which was shut down 11 days after launch. Totoki explained that the company's foray into live service games is still a learning process and that it had to take lessons from what happened with Concord. Currently, we are still in the process of learning, he said via an interpreter. And basically, with regrets to new IP, of course, you don't know the result until you actually try it. So for us, for our reflection, we probably need to have a lot of gates, including a user testing or internal evaluation and the timing of such gates. And then we need to bring them forward, and we should have done those gates much earlier than we did. Also, we have a siloed organization, so going beyond the boundaries of those organizations in terms of development and also sales, I think that could have been much smoother. And then going forward in our titles and in third-party titles, we do have many different windows, and we want to be able to select the right and optimal window so that we can deploy them on our own platform without cannibalization, so that we can maximize our performance in terms of title launches. That's all I have.
That's all I have is a real defeated.
Yeah, that's all I have for you.
That's all I got.
I mean, yeah,
I thought about this a lot, and ultimately, I don't fucking know. We just fucked up, man.
Yeah, right. They're like, I guess we could have known it was gonna suck earlier, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. I think the whole story of Concord is, if you were someone testing this game, you go, it's good, all right. It's not for me, but it's for somebody, probably. And I mean, if there was someone out there saying it was for nobody, I think that's hard to convince other people that for certain that no one else was going to care about this game. And so earlier testing, I don't know if that does help. I guess you become much more cynical in your testing, and it's like, unless this is making my brain pop like popcorn every 2 seconds, feeling excited about the possibilities here, then fucking put it in a bin and never look at it again, because otherwise we know it's can you do that? I don't know. I think you got to give these games and game developers room to breathe, to grow into making a game that is exciting. So yeah, you could try this stuff, but I think Concord is more a sign of just how impossible this entire job is.
I think some of it comes back to what we were talking about playing the game, playing the market in a lot of ways, because you look at Deadlock over on Steam, And Valve straight up were like, okay, we need to prime the numbers for this before we even announce it. So we'll have this private closed beta that like 64,000 people are playing in.
Yep.
So that already, when it is like released, it's already in the algorithm and it's already a known quantity and people, and it's climbing all own charts, the charts that Valve themselves control. They still have to play the game. And I just think that Sony have an expectation that they don't need to do that because they've done such a good job with their single player stuff of people just arrive for it. People will arrive for the next game from Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica. But people won't just arrive for the next game from Firewalk Studios, because who is Firewalk and what credentials do Sony have in the multiplayer space beyond like people being like, oh yeah, I guess I liked SOCOM, I guess I liked Uncharted 3's multiplayer a bit, like, you know, they don't have the bona fides that make it a thing that you're gonna go out and buy no matter what as soon as you hear about it.
You know, for as scummy as it is, it kind of maybe puts some of the truth to what like Nintendo's strategy of like, don't tell them who's making the game. It's a Nintendo game, right? It's a Nintendo game. We want people to be excited about it because it's a Nintendo game, not because Acquire's making it. Who's Acquire? You know, I hate that, but maybe there's some accuracy to that being an important way of positioning games so that it has the best chance of succeeding with consumers, right? And you know, maybe that you can't pull that off. Maybe you can't do that. But if at the very least, like Sony just needs to learn how to talk to its own consumers in a way that can get them excited about these games. And really, I don't know if that's possible because they just have shown over and over that that audience wants just one kind of certain kind of game. And I don't think that's forever. I don't think like they're locked into this forever. That will change over time. That will, taste will change. But in this moment, it's like we are here for the most prestigious shit. And Concord doesn't feel like that. I know you try to tell us like this is the prestigious shooter because it has cutscenes like other Sony games, but we saw them, we didn't like it, we don't believe you. And at that point, it was screwed. There was just no chance. So, yeah, I don't envy them having to sort of dissect this and figure it out because I think the answer here is mostly no one knows what's going to work, and no one actually knows if something is going to be a complete explosion upon release in the way that this was, or implosion, I guess I could say, and that's not great for a company that needs to spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars selecting which games get made and which don't. At a certain point, you got to look around and be like, What do we know? What can we act on? And that's how you get really risk-averse decisions, things that don't enable you to grow. They just kind of focus more and more on the same people. And that's exactly what Sony was trying to get away from. That's specifically the thing that they were trying to grow beyond is we're good at that already. We do know what that audience wants. We've delivered games to them over and over. They are buying those games a lot, maybe not at a way that's growing at a huge clip, but they do spend a lot of money on our stuff and they're very loyal and they're going to show up for the PlayStation no matter what because they know they can get those games. But we need something beyond that. And that was going to be Concord. It was going to be all these other live service games. And that obviously just is not going to work. It's not going to work. So, yeah, again, I do not envy them. All right. Well, let's hit this last Sony story before we take a break. Lack of PS5 Pro shortages means some scalpers are reselling at a loss. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Scalpers looking to capitalize on the release of PS5 Pro are struggling to make a profit due to its generally ready availability. While there remain a handful of sellers trying to sell the console at a profit, eBay UK currently has numerous sellers listing the £700 console for less than its retail price. A number of sellers currently have buy it now consoles on sale for £680 to £700, while others have auctions currently sitting between £510 and £670. While these auctions will likely rise before they end, it seems less likely that they will surpass the console's £700 retail price. A couple things here. Wonderful.
Sorry, but I missed all that. I'm playing the world's smallest violin right now.
There it is. Yeah, right, exactly. Like, screw scalpers. You get what you deserve. Also, do you think that this indicates that maybe £700 was too high of a price? Because, I mean, I think this is the market correcting, right? Yeah.
I think it was totally too high of a price because it was too high of a price for me, someone who bought a PS5 Pro or a PS4 Pro I looked at it and I was like, 800 fucking euro. That's a fuckload of money. No, thank you. And like, yeah, I think it's definitely that part. It's that price that they've got into where you look at it and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna build a PC now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's I think it's very easy for us to look at this and be like, this is the market saying, hey, this is what we can actually bear. I'm not gonna rush out to get this thing and pay a higher price than $700. So I'm just not even considering that, and that's left a lot of these scalpers in this situation. The other side of that, this could be supply rather than demand. Maybe there are just so many PS5 Pros ready to go that it's more than the demand would be, regardless if there were scalpers or not. So yeah, it seems like maybe a little bit of both. I think the price is too high for most people, and it seems like they were able to get enough supply into the supply chain, and those two factors have created this situation.
The other thing about the PS5 Pro is like nobody feels good about buying one. Like the fucking stand costs $25. Like nobody feels good about making the purchase of a PS5 Pro. By the time they're done buying it, they feel like they've just been fleeced by a fucking hooligan. Yeah,
right. I think that is one of the value factors missing here. That's a really good point, right? When you buy something that is supposed to be pro, the idea is maybe you can kind of get everything thrown in there. You're treated a little bit better than everybody else. Yeah, you spent more money, but you don't have to think about everything. You just get it all. And here it's like, no, you're a pro, and that means we're going to nickel and dime you. We're going to charge you for the disk drive. We're going to charge you for the stand. We're also going to put out special edition version that has all the goodies for just $1,000. That's actually a pretty good price because you get the not the DualSense, so whatever, the DualSense Edge controller and stuff like that, and it's really rare. So it's like when you start comparing to that, it's like $1,000 for that thing made a lot of sense. I feel kind of bad going back down to $700 for this thing where I'm like, now I gotta go out and get a disk drive and all this other BS. So yeah, I think people have just can't talk themselves into this one as easily as they could some of these other purchases.
Grubb, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think one of your kids is looking for you, and they're in chat under the username Dan Reichert.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, they're really screaming up a storm and complaining and throwing a tantrum. Yeah, you should get control of them. Like, this is kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get the belt. Yeah, here we go. Very excited about my new haircut. I just what's happening there. Which
it looks fine.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna change it, but everyone seems to like it better than I do. So whatever. Yeah, you know what I think it looks like? Soap McTavish. I think that's the name of the character from Call of Duty. Soap McTavish.
You're just such a huge Call of Duty fan.
No, let's be real. I'm a Soap fan. Give me Soap McTavish every day. Soap McTavish is my life. I want to be living the Soap McTavish life.
You should shave your beard so that you have the handlebar mustache as well.
Okay, yes, I'll do half Soap, half Captain Price. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do two cosplays at once.
The child in chat is now chanting Game Scent. I've destroyed the Game Scent. That I threw it into the fires of Mount Doom, one of your favorite movies. So there you go.
Took it outside and took a bat to it.
Yeah, shot it with a gun. All right, here we are. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Let's talk about Sega's earnings. Let's talk about what else we got coming up. Palworld actually gave us some insights, Pocket Pair did, into what Nintendo sued them for. So we'll talk about that as well right after this. All right, we're back, and we're all just still buzzing about Soap McTavish. In the meantime,
sorry, someone in chat just said Mormons call him Soak McTavish.
Very good.
That's so stupid.
Yep, that's
so fucking stupid.
It's pretty stupid. All right, let's go with Sega's half-year results driven by 22% increase in games revenue. This is from Marie Delisandre at gi.biz. Sega published its financial results for the 6 months that ended September 30th, 2024, with sales across the wider company down year on year, but games drove good H1 fiscal year 25 results for its entertainment segment. Here's the numbers. Net sales were 211.6 billion yen, which is about $1.39 billion. That's down 4.5% year on year. But entertainment content net sales were at $931 million, which is a 16.4% increase year on year. And then the game segment specifically was up to $628 million. That's that 22% year on year increase. Games sales have driven positive half-year results for Sega's entertainment content segment. Sales across that vertical were up 16.4%, and game sales were up to 22%. This was due to DLC sales exceeding expectations, the report pointed out, and repeat sales being strong, with Unicorn Overlord in particular being highlighted. Sega also noted that recording of Rovio sales contributed to sales increase. It added that there was a positive impact from exchange rate fluctuations, and that cost improvement, mainly in Europe, exceeded expectations. Blah blah blah. There's a lot of like minutia here, but it's mostly Sega's business is doing pretty well, and this was before they launched Metaphor, which is probably going to be a big exclamation point on the year. Yes, and Sonic. Yes, Sonic's going to do well for them. Sonic Shadows Generation. That game's going to also contribute very well to their end year results. They're in a position here where it's like, okay, we released Persona 3 Reload and Unicorn Overlord, and these games are doing very well, and that has increased our game sales about the rate that is in line with what Capcom is seeing quarter after quarter, about 15 to 25%. They're on the high end of that, actually, at 22% for their game sales. And again, that is before they launch one of their biggest games of the year, two of their biggest games of the year. So yeah, they're well positioned to have a very strong year, and Sega's earned it, right?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is that it does feel like Sega games have a much longer tail than they did even a couple of years ago. Like the conversations around Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Persona 3, maybe it's because they're long games, but it felt like they lasted a lot longer, and it felt like more people were going out and buying them week over week. Personally, I think like even as someone who fucking hates Sonic, like Sega was definitely my publisher of the year by far. Metaphor, Persona 3, and Infinite Wealth are all like top 5 games of the year for me, maybe. And yeah, it's like well-earned success. I think they've found a really good cadence. I'm curious to see how their multimedia push on other projects outside of Sonic goes,
right,
and if that continues to have as good an effect as the Sonic movie had, like that Yakuza show. I'm curious if that bolsters sales in the same way the Fallout show did. I don't think it will be nearly as big of a bolstering because that Fallout show like exploded. But I'm curious to see if it does give them a boon. Like even fucking 2K or Zaustrelnik was out there saying like, yeah, the Borderlands movie sucked, but it did good for our sales. So I'm curious.
Right.
I'm curious how that benefits them in the long run, and especially like they were saying that Yakuza Kiwami release just came out on Switch, and if they bring all those other Yakuza games to a Switch 2, which they'd probably need the Switch 2's power for the later Dragon Age games, yeah, those could do a lot of sales, because like releasing that at $20 was fucking really smart, because it was just cheap enough that me, someone who owns like 2 copies of Kiwami already, was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy it. I'll chip away at that on the Switch again. And in fact, I use like my Nintendo points to get it for like down to $8 or something. So yeah, it seems like they have set a good pace for themselves with some of these things.
Yeah, and I think mentioning the Yakuza show, if that doesn't have any effect on sales, I do think it's like maybe we should like rethink how we are getting these things out here, because like you pointed out, even Borderlands being a bad movie had a net positive effect on the sales of the video games. And it's like, okay, so we're at a point where it's like just the existence of these big projects can like start up the conversation. So did Yakuza create a blip enough to have that effect? The TV show, I hope so. But then there's a possibility it just comes and goes and doesn't do that. And it's like,
and the great thing about these movie projects for these studios or for the companies is they're not putting a lot of money.
They're not really
into
online
them,
for
usually.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not on the hook for it. They're just selling the IP and being like, fucking go for it. You want to make a fucking Comic Zone fucking movie? Sure, it's not my money.
Yeah, exactly. They just kind of get paid, and then they get a lot more money if it works out really well, and they can have deep involvement in it if they want. Clearly, Sega and Nintendo have both done that with Sonic and Mario, respectively. But otherwise, for some of these smaller projects, you're right. Just license the IP out to Hollywood and let them do it. But I think if you do get involved and you can ensure like some sort of splash for the project, you also stand to reap even more rewards from selling the video games, which for many of these projects might be where the real money is. We'll see.
Yeah. Dan says I'm too young to know what Comic Zone is. Here's the thing, Dan. I use the website called giantbomb.com and watch it a lot. So I'm surrounded by old motherfuckers who talk about Comic Zone and have for years.
There's a new game called like Comic Zero or something like that is trying to be a little Comic Zone, but it's like it doesn't look comic book enough. I wish it looked more like Comic Zone, but they really, like, you're not just making that up. They really are making a Comic Zone movie, right? That was something that got announced.
They sold it to Story Kitchen, I think it was, who are making like a bunch of video game adaptations, and I don't know how many of them have like materialized or are just are just Hollywood in production, you know?
Right.
Like James Wan has like 15 movies in production right now. How many of those will actually come out?
Yes. Also, I do stand with Marino. Comic Zone, never really fun to play. Definitely was a better looking game, more interesting to look at than to actually play.
Like Alex Kidd is the same way. Alex Kidd games are like...
Yeah, Alex Kidd just straight up bad, yeah.
Yeah, Alex Kidd games are miserable.
All right. Let's see here. Sega has sold Humankind developer Amplitude from Andy Robinson at VGC. Sega has sold Humankind and Endless Dungeon developer Amplitude Studios, it announced during the company's latest financial results published on Friday. The publisher said the Paris, France-based developer has been sold as part of a management buyout. Its last game, Endless Dungeon, was released last year. In March, Sega announced a similar sale of Vancouver, Canada-based Relic, which also specializes in real-time strategy games, including the Company of Heroes, Age of Empires, and Homeworld series. Is Endless Dungeon a real-time game? I know that Humankind was not. It was more like a 4X.
Endless Dungeon was like I played it at Gamescom a few years back. It's a isometric kind of... The Endless series is a kind of series that goes between different genres and stuff.
Right, different strategy genres. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's an isometric action game was that one. This is interesting because now I think the only real Sega Western studio left that they have any input in is Creative Assembly.
Right.
And Creative Assembly, last I heard, the mood was not great around there after the whole hyenas stuff.
Right, but I think they do seem like they're the one that will survive this because they announced that they're working on that new Alien Isolation game, right?
Yeah, I think there was a big, like, I would assume that there was a big change in morale when they were like, we get to work on Alien Isolation, something that we've been trying to get to work on for like the last like 10 years. Because the people there fucking still love that game. They talk to people who write books about that game. They are constantly out there talking about how much they enjoyed working on that game and how much they wish they got to make a sequel. So yeah, I think that like that's now Sega's only real Western studio. Which is kind of like, you saw with Capcom 2, they got out of the game when they shut down Capcom Vancouver, and they haven't really tried to set up or partner with any Western studios since then. I think it's a lot of these Japanese companies deciding to place safer bets internally where they don't have to deal with foreign companies and
foreign labor laws, Yeah,
all the complications that entails. It's inverse of kind of why Microsoft offloaded Grasshopper or shut down Grasshopper, and then we're like, yeah, sure, buy it after we shut it down. Like a lot of that was just, we don't want to run this company anymore. It's a lot of work to do that. Translating things into Japanese legalese is real difficult and takes a lot of time.
That's a lot of cost. Yeah, it's I always point this out, a bit of a shame, because when Sega was in its lean years, when it was between like people actually caring about its third-party games it might have put out on GameCube and Xbox and things like that, for many years in between that stuff and today, they were relying on these Western developers making games primarily for the PC that did do very well. Now, that was mostly Relic and Creative Assembly, but Amplitude here was still trying to like grow that for them, with Humankind being like this Civilization competitor, and did
they announce who they sold it to here?
They sold it to the people that work at Amplitude.
Okay.
Amplitude is now management.
If you're going to sell it to anyone, that's a good person to sell it to.
Right. I hope it works out great for everybody. Exactly. Yes. But we'll see. I think you're right. Like, Creative Assembly's now left. They're working on Alien Isolation 2. They're also I mean, they'll keep making Total War games. One of the Total War games, very likely, though, a Star Wars game. I know that rumor is out there now. It's something I heard a while back, and was like, yeah, that sounds plausible. So a Total War Star Wars game will probably be something that, like, yeah, Sega will want to keep that around as well.
I'm trying to think of what was the last Sega Star Wars game.
I mean, they had Sega Star Wars Arcade. The arcade trilogy game, which was fantastic, but that was the late '90s. So that was around the time.
It's been a while since Sega worked with Disney.
Yeah, I hope that hey, they should put that game out. Go get Aspire to put that game out on Switch. I would love to have the Sega arcade game. Oh yeah, and John Carr says Fantasy Star Wars. They should make that as well. If they're gonna just put Star Wars in a bunch of their IP, let's do it. Okay, let's hit this next one. Palworld allegedly infringed. Nintendo alleges that Palworld has infringed upon 3 of its patents. Let's get this from My Nintendo News. Pocket Pair, the developer behind the successful Palworld video game, has issued a statement regarding the patents which both Nintendo and the Pokemon Company state that the independent studio infringes on. The company and Nintendo claim that Pocket Pair infringes on 3 of its patents and is looking to be compensated by the company to the tune of over 10 million yen, and have issued an injunction against Palworld. Pocket Pair says they will continue to assert our position in this case through future legal proceedings. The details, like we have like the numbers here, the patents. I looked into them a little bit. They are mostly what people were speculating. For example, one that's like about, I'll read the classification here from the patent on patents.google.com. Controlling the output signals based on the game progress involving additional visual information provided to the game scene. For example, by overlay to simulate a heads-up display or displaying a laser sight in a shooting game using indicator, for example, showing the conditions of a game character on the screen for tagging characters, objects, or locations in the game scene. For example, displaying a circle under the character controlled by the player. I'm sure, like, that's so weird and vague. And in fact, a lot of these things were filed on, July 30th, 2024, February 2024, March 5th, 2024, all after Palworld came out, I believe. Palworld was an early release, like January of this year, I want to say, if not maybe February. So it's like, that doesn't mean that these patents are something that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company invented afterward, but it means that they got around to patenting them afterward, and like they would have to prove that they had this stuff in the works beforehand. But all of it just sounds like vague gesturing towards catching a Pokemon out in a 3D space. And so like when you have the circle around a Pokemon that shows how well your Pokeball is going to do, it sounds like maybe this is referencing that, something along those lines. But the point is, it's mostly bullshit. It's mostly just Nintendo looking for something that they can sue Pocket Pair for, and not necessarily about protecting these patents in the first place. It is like these are being weaponized, and not necessarily about like, the sanctity of our intellectual property, right?
Yeah, and the other thing, I think Molino mentioned it in chat, but I was looking at it as you were talking about it. 10 million yen isn't a lot of money. It's like $6,500. Like, it's not... It's a lot of money, but compared to what Palworld sold, and compared to what, like, Pokemon makes and the Pokemon Company is making every year, it really does feel like more of a warning shot of like, hey, don't step out of line. 65,500. Sorry, my bad.
Yep.
It's not, and even if you apply that for each infringement, that's still not a lot. So yeah, it just feels like it seems like a slap on the wrist for what they want to send a message more than anything else.
Yep. Yeah, and it's this My Nintendo News story did have the 2024 date. Sean points out that it was originally filed in 2021, and when I go look at the Google Patents thing here, it does say worldwide application was applied in 2021 in Japan, 2022 in the United States. It was updated on all those dates I mentioned previously, the 2024 dates after Pocket Pair released Palworld, which we talked about in a previous episode, where it's like Nintendo does this with its team of lawyers, where when they do sue someone for patent infringement in Japan, you can update the patents. And in doing so, like, you can really make them targeted at a very specific case And that's why Nintendo almost always wins these things, is they have lawyers that know how to take advantage of the system, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Paul W. Graham in chat says apparently there's a rumor that this is all a proxy war between Sony and Nintendo, and no, that's... Nintendo have better things to do than to, like, do this sort of, like, low-key harassment. If they're gonna use their lawyers for something, they're gonna go after something that will make them more money.
Why would it be a proxy war between Nintendo and Sony?
Because Sony invested in Pocket Pair.
That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
I could see how people draw that conclusion, but you are right. That is not... like a random investment for Sony is not going to be the thing that sets Nintendo off. No, this is very much about you stepped on our turf.
Yeah, your child just saw a toy that they remembered and said they say proxy wars in Metal Gear.
So he says he's heard of that. Very good.
Yeah,
very good. Learning.
He's learning.
Yeah, learning. Maybe a bit of a strong word in this case. Hey. It is what we thought it was, this case. Everyone's kind of understood from the beginning that this is Nintendo, seen something that is very successful and has, raised their eyebrows, and then them turning around and be like, we can rough them up a little bit, so let's go rough them up a little bit. It is, hey, you have a nice game here, it'd be a shame if something happened to it. And, it continues to suck because the way that they're doing it is patent trolling. And
it really is like Nintendo going out there and being like, yeah, we do such a great service for the community, taking out the trash.
Yep.
We really help you out, buddy. It would be a shame if we weren't here to help you out and maybe someone started making a muck of this place.
Yep. And I think that Nintendo will could regret this one day when it gets sued for patent infringement. And
if we weren't here, Charizard would be here kicking up your lawn and shit.
Mm-hmm. You'd much rather deal with us, right? It's just cleaner that way. It's cleaner. I think that they'll probably actually still end up settling. I bet Pocket Pair. What does that actually look like? And I suppose that's that takes two to tango. If Nintendo wants to let them settle, so that or do they want to make this as painful as possible? Either way though, I continue to think that this is a shitty use of Nintendo's resources and shows just how stupid and weird that company can be. All right. Kojima Productions reportedly gains full control of Death Stranding IP from Ollie Reynolds at Nintendo Life. This is mostly just an update. We talked about this story yesterday of a Death Stranding director's cut coming to Xbox suddenly out of nowhere. Mentioned that doesn't Sony still own part of that IP, that trademark? That has changed, actually. That changed yesterday morning. It was reported that Kojima Productions has now gained full control of Death Stranding. The rights have reverted over there. Whether or not that was Kojima paying Sony to get it back, or if that was just a byproduct of the original contract, I think it's probably likely that. But here we are now. Kojima fully owns it, and that means they could put this game out anywhere. For example, Xbox or Nintendo Switch 2, right? Like, I think there's a chance we get to the Nintendo Switch 2 launch, and Death Stranding Director's Cut is just there, right?
Yeah, the weird thing about this was, while they were still partnering with Sony, they did release it on Amazon Luna, but just no one bothered to turn that into a story, because, like, who fucking cares?
Right, exactly.
Who cares?
Yep.
Like, okay, great, Sony's putting their games on Amazon Luna. Awesome. But yeah, this kind of makes sense. If they're making a movie and Kojima wants it to be a universe that he has full control of, it makes sense that he doesn't want to share it with 505 anymore, so they probably have taken over the PC rights, or they're trying to take over the PC rights as well at the moment. And yeah, it makes sense. It is interesting that there's still, as far as I know, Death Stranding 2 is still going to be marketed as like a PlayStation exclusive. And how much of that is them trying to keep both PlayStation and Xbox happy with them having their own exclusives, you know?
Yep.
So that's something that will be interesting to see as it goes along. And if Xbox is like, hey, what if we released our Xbox exclusive Kojima game on PlayStation? Then we get to really weird territory. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how they go. And obviously they have that deal with Sony for Physant, which is ages away, but that's a big deal for people in Sony, at least.
Yep. There's right there, I'm pointing at it. That is an Amazon Luna controller right there, hanging up on my wall for all to see. I thought
And how long has it been hanging there since it was last touched?
Well, the second I put that thing on the wall securely with the screw, I put that thing up there just to see what it looked like, and then I've not touched it since. So I've never removed it from that position. Yeah, it belongs in a museum. That's right. Real quick, I was just like looking at that, and then like my hair was right next to it, and I'm like, I remember when Kayla was cutting my hair, Dan, she kept saying, "Can I give you a mohawk?" And I'm like, look, I think she like stealthily tried to do that. I think she was very much going for that, and that's what ended up happening to my hair here, which is very mohawkish now.
Honestly, I'm thinking asking Kayla to cut my hair because it's kind of what I've been going for
there
the
you
last
go.
little while.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, Dan. You also cut a lot from the top. Yeah. Yeah. See, people like it. Everyone seems to like the hair. Yeah. We'll see. I might go get it cleaned up so that it just is kind of the little mohawk for Kayla's sake.
It was real beautiful watching that stream at night and then going to sleep and then waking up at 8 a.m. for my stream and seeing ye all still going and just like so little time had passed for me, but clearly it was like the fucking scene in Interstellar where it had been 7 years on the spaceship. And you had aged so much. Jeff Grubb looked like a different fucking person. There was a man in a fucking suit and I didn't even know who it was. I was like, is there another person in this room?
Yeah, I don't want to dox Dan, but his house is very close to a black hole. So it really does affect time over there. It's, quite good. Yeah. I'm sorry it's going to make it easy, but yeah, I just had to say it. All right. A Mass Effect TV series is in development at Amazon. This is from Vicky Blake at gi.biz. A TV series based upon BioWare's Mass Effect franchise has been greenlit by Amazon. Fast and Furious 9 writer Daniel Casey is set to write and executive produce the Amazon MGM Studios production, with Kareem Zarek also producing via Cedar Tree Productions. The EP team is rounded out by Ari Arad and EA's Michael Gamble, who is the executive producer of the Mass Effect video game, like the creative director over there, I think. This is another video game project, and one that I think makes sense if you kind of just do it by the numbers. A sci-fi adventure TV show should be relatively easy to like go from point A to point B to get that thing out. But I don't know. What do you think?
I'm looking at what's his name? Daniel Casey's writing IMDb credits. There is not much here. It really is just Fast and the Furious 9, something called Kin. Then his previous thing was a TV show in 2012, and a couple of other like movies in the early 2000s. It's weird that you wouldn't go out and get a big name screenwriter for a game series that is basically entirely known for its writing. It feels like a lot of the reason that Fallout show was big or got sort of its bona fides with the TV crowd before it even came out was Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, and people were like, oh, those are big names. So Variety took that show very seriously and reported on it very seriously. This doesn't feel like they've gone to that length of getting like a showrunner or a writer who is kind of a known name. Anything can be good, and it's not my money, it's Jeff Bezos's money. So sure, fuck it, go for it, man.
I'm like trying to like see is Daniel Casey like the son of somebody or anything like that? And I don't see that. He grew up in Royal Oak, Michigan, which is I think that's like pretty close to being the fancy place near Detroit. It's not Grosse Pointe, excuse me, which is the very fancy place. But yeah, shout outs to a Michigan boy at the very least. I don't know. He says years active since 1999, right? So what was he doing? Like he's got the handful of writing projects. I don't know. Maybe he was working on stuff in some other ways. Maybe just producing. But fair enough. Okay. He's working with Ed Brubaker on stuff. Okay, that's pretty neat. Ed Brubaker did a good run of Captain America.
Yes, he's done some good comics. Get Ed Brubaker in the writing room.
Yeah,
fuck it.
Yeah. If you get Ed Brubaker to write an episode of a Mass Effect TV show, I think I'd feel pretty good about that. Yeah. Someone recommend me more Ed Brubaker stuff. I don't know if I've read a lot of his other stuff, so feel free to get in
I think I read an Iron Fist run of his that was pretty okay.
Okay. Yeah. Get me on Bluesky. I would like that. Okay.
Grubb,
yeah.
On Twitter, you're at Jeff Grubb.
Yeah.
On Blue Sky, you're at Grubb.
Yeah.
Do you want to know who Jeff Grubb is on Blue Sky?
Do I want to know?
It's the other Jeff Grubb.
Ah, okay, sure.
He fucking stole it from you.
Well,
He got
to be fair,
it. He got it first.
To be fair, I wanted just Grubb, so I got that before him. I didn't want Jeff Grubb, so I'm happy with that at Grubb. But
well, in this case, it's your fault that I tagged some writer on Warcraft in my Blue Sky post about being on the show today.
I suppose I should have considered the brand. I should have. That's my fault, my failure. I'd like to apologize to everybody for not considering the brand. All right, sure, Mass Effect TV show, whatever. I'll believe it when I see it with all these things. But I'll say this is one that I am interested in. I would like to see this. You know, I did watch that Fallout TV show. I thought that was pretty good. I would be more interested in a Mass Effect show than a Fallout show, personally. Real quick here, little note. That God of War TV show we talked about before, Ron Moore's taking that over. Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek and a bunch of other stuff. I guess he must have just finished For All Mankind with Apple TV, which got like way more seasons than I thought it would. So I guess he was free and now he's going to work on God of War. I'm interested to see that at the very least.
I rewatched that Fallout show with my parents, and it's good enough that my parents were like, "Oh, this is good."
Yeah, I think it's a good. That sounds like the right video game show to put in front of parents.
Yeah,
that
although
is
my
right.
dad didn't get that, like, oh, the bombs dropped in 2077. He was like, I thought that was the 1960s. I was like, no,
it's an alternate history where nuclear power became so efficient that they just stopped. There was no microelectronics movement because of nuclear power, basically. Well, final news story here. Let me see here. Happy birthday to friend of the site, Michael O'Leary. Yay! Have fun at Disney. I believe he's going to go celebrate there. So happy birthday to you, Michael. All right. Poll question from yesterday. Let me get that up over here. Oh, nope, I've lost it. Actually, so while I get this set up, Lexi, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff.
Yes, you can find me on Blue Sky and Twitter and Twitch at basically Lexi, both spelt with I's at the end. My Twitch community recently raised $1,115 for Extra Life for the Giant Bomb team, which was awesome. It was a really fun stream. We played through all of Binary Domain in like one sitting, and then played 3 hours of Sonic 06, which was soul destroying. Currently, I am organizing a bunch of stuff for my website, Start Menu, which is a website for young people trying to break into the industry. We're getting guests on again this year. Grubb, I think I have you signed up. I have a few other people signed up. Looking like a real cool. We have Jason Finelli. He's going to be on the site this year, which is awesome. Trying to get some different names on. And so we'll have a bunch of guests, and then we'll also have a bunch of lists and top 10s and end of the year pieces from young writers going up at the same time alongside all of these established names and people. And we're working on our group awards, which will be a big undertaking, because it always is, because it's a Discord of like 300 people, and trying to figure out how to assign a game of the year of between 300 people who are of varying levels of activity in the Discord is always fun. But yeah, go check out startmenu.co.uk if you want to see some of that stuff. We have stuff going up literally every single day for like the next week and a half, because I had a big backlog after going to London Comic-Con, which was not so good. Not a fan of Comic-Con. Comic-Con's not a fun time.
I don't feel a need to go to a Comic-Con. I'm good.
So EGX paired up with Comic-Con. EGX used to be the big British game version of Gamescom. That ain't it, man. That ain't it. It wasn't a great show. So I got to interview some cool people, but they were all group interviews, so nothing much has come of it in the way of pitching, which is always a shame. I did briefly meet Ben Starr and talk to him mainly about Mike Minotti.
Sure. Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah. He was like, "Why? I still don't know why Mike was dressed up as RoboCop, but he was there when I got there, which was weird." I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of what it was like for me too when I showed up."
Ben's gotta stop calling me in the middle of the night asking me that. Like, look, dude, I know it haunts you, but I just don't have an answer for you, man. I am sorry, Mr. Starr. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think I have one very big report that I'm working on for the end of the year for Shaq News that I can't really talk about, but it's one of my first long form reports that I'm working on. So do read that when it comes out. I'll be writing a lot of it next week, so hopefully it'll go up next week or the week after. But yeah, other than that, you can find me lurking in the Giant Bomb chat, and I'm trying to take it easy for the rest of the year. Haven't gone pitching any reviews because boy, there's not that much left coming out other than Indiana Jones and Stalker, and they're all being covered in-house by websites. So there's a lot of freelancers vying for a lot less stuff than there usually would be. So it's a tough end of the year, but at least February's looking busy.
Okay, I got a poll question from yesterday. We'll get the results of that real quick. But people in chat, throw out the games that are coming out for the rest of the year. That's going to be the next poll question. Is which of these games are you still most looking forward to? We'll do Rise of the Golden Idol. We'll do the two you just mentioned.
Indiana Jones,
Stalker,
and
Lego Horizon. Dragon Quest. Okay,
yeah,
you guys keep them there. All right, here's the poll results from yesterday. Let's see here. Do you still think GTA 6 comes out by fall 2025? 58% say no. 42% though say yes. And I think, near a coin flip, I think that's actually where I'm at personally. I did vote no, but I only lean no. I don't think it's like we got to get a delay for this thing. Of course that's going to happen. I think it feels quite possible, and I won't be surprised if that happens, but I just lean towards no. If it does come out fall 2025, I think that's possible too. How about you?
I think the way to look at this is that game has definitely been delayed internally several times, and maybe they're just better about being quiet about it this time. Yeah. And they've given them. They're now, instead of announcing it or announcing a release date so early that they have to publicly push it back, they're now like, okay, this is the final actual release date. I think they might have learned their lessons of when to announce the release dates. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's get those games. Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. Stalker. What was it? Stalker
2. Stalker 2.
Stalker 2.
Indiana Jones and Golden Idol. Rise of the Golden Idol.
I'll put Tetris Fever on here. Sure, yeah. Or Tetris Forever, excuse me.
Forever. I'm so excited for that. I really wish I had landed a review for that. I don't know when codes are going out, but that game looks awesome.
I feel like if I put Anton Blast on here, it's just going to set Anton Blast up for failure because even people that people should know about the game don't know about it. Yeah, let's leave Anton Blast out of here for its own sake. But I am excited about that. Okay. Yeah, this looks good. All right, so which game are you most looking forward to for the rest of the year? Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, Stalker 2, Indiana Jones, Rise of the Golden Idol, or Tetris Forever? Only had space. That's right, they did change it to 4, didn't they? Okay, so yeah, get rid of Tetris. Get rid of Dragon Quest since that's a remake. Or is that 4? That is 4. Excuse me. Okay, so Dragon Quest, Stalker 2, Indiana Jones, Rise of the Golden Idol. Okay, those are your 4. That seems fair. We will get the results of that, talk about it on Game S Mornings here on Giant Bomb on Monday, right? Yes, Monday should be fine. Speaking of Giant Bomb, today we're going to do a UPF. I think we're doing a voicemail dump truck. The voicemail dump truck is at 3 p.m. Eastern, so we'll try to fit UPF in there. Maybe before that a little bit. We'll just hang out. We're going to do web fishing, I think it's called. We're going to do web fishing. So
it's going to be a low impact Friday.
I think we could all do. Friday. We're going to save our knees. We're going to save our souls. Yeah. Let's just hang out and. We're
going to tread water in the shallow end of the pool, and we're going to place our butts up against the thing that like jettisons water out of them, and just really enjoy hanging out in the pool.
Monday's Veterans Day. Do we have Veterans Day off, Jan? I can't remember. And honestly, I don't know where to look to see that. I think it's like. Concourse, what's the name of that website I got to use to find out what my work is? Let's say yes, and then Jan says yes. We probably do have it off. Okay, well in that case, a long weekend out of nowhere. Kind of honestly a little annoyed by that because we got work to get done. I'm out the next week, so a short week is not going to help me. But we'll be back with Game S Mornings when we'll be back. In the meantime, that poll should be going live. Thanks for posting that, Lexi. Anything else we should mention? You know what? Yeah. What thing?
Take care of yourself this weekend. Go watch a movie. Go take yourself out for dinner, or just do something nice for yourself.
Take care of yourself. And then if you are a game developer listening to this and you are going to be in Los Angeles for the Game Awards, let me know. We'd love to have you on the Giant Bomb couch. We're doing GB at night on Wednesday, December 11th, the night before the Game Awards. So that
You
evening,
should invite Casper Van Dien back, but only talk to him about noobs this time.
he's actually still in there. He never left. So we just locked
I
him
saw
in
him
there.
at Gamescom, but he must have gone out for a little bit.
That was
but
a
you got him
Jedi
again? You got him
projection.
again?
Yes, actually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we can ask Casper, of course. I would love to get Casper back on there. But yeah, hey, we got a lot of friends of the site coming to hang out, but people that might have games they want to talk about or games that they're proud of that they made from the last couple of years, let me know. Would love to get you on there. But reach out. Twitter, I guess, still my DMs are open. Blue Sky, tag me, email me. jgrubb@fandom.com. Okay, Lexi, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talk about video games. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Always favorite show to be on.
Favorite show to have you on. And I know that doesn't make sense, but it's true.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Please take care of yourself, and goodbye.